We are back with Joe on a brand new movie, Scream. That's it. Nothing else.
Scream.
Not Scream 5. It's just called Scream. We'll get into all of that right now. Hey guys, Dan here, and of course, Joe, like I mentioned, talking about a brand new movie. We just saw the premiere of Scream 2022, which is in effect Scream 5 because it is a direct sequel in the lineage, and we'll discuss a little bit about that.
It's a requel, apparently.
A requel, as they explained to us in this film.
In depth, yeah.
Which, of course, you made the point ever since Halloween in 2018.
Yeah.
Everyone has been, especially in the horror, really, everyone has been doing it. Candyman 3, really, or 4 maybe, was just really called Candyman, but it was still
a sequel
in the line. It was still a sequel. So this is not a reboot. It is a direct lineage. So unlike a lot of our reviews where I think we get into the spoilers sort of at the tail end, I think we need to talk a good spoiler heavy, but not yet.
No.
So the first 3 or 4 minutes, I think we'll just sort of give briefs and then our grades, and then I think really get into the details of this movie a little bit.
Sure, okay.
So for you, your presence of Scream is you have not seen 3 or 4.
No, I don't even know if I've seen 2 all the way through. It's been so long.
Okay, but
so
1, of course, is
I've seen 1.
top choice.
It's a good movie, yeah.
Come on, good is
Good movie.
low. Great movie.
It's a good movie.
No, you don't think it's great?
I mean,
It almost made my top 50. When we were doing top 50 movies, it almost made the cut.
it's one of those things
You know?
where I'd probably have to watch it again when I was able to think more clearly.
Okay.
Because I only saw it once a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like I was very young.
We tried to see it once again over the summer, but we had already been drinking for a couple hours, so that didn't happen. Didn't take. So I love the first one. Second one I think is pretty good. First one's A+. Second one for me is probably like a B. Third one is the worst of them. Still not bad, but like C+ range.
Okay.
I wasn't grading when I saw it, but I would say. And then 4, from what I remember, I gave a B+.
Okay.
You know, another good one in the line. So you don't really need to really have seen, I guess, any of them except for that first one for this movie.
Yeah.
And even then, you don't have to because they lay it out.
Explain it all the way.
They explain a lot. And we do see many people from that first entry, and really all the entries so far. We have David Arquette, Courtney Cox, and Neve Campbell are all back. But a new cast of characters is introduced as well, including Melissa Barrera from In the Heights, Mason Goodling, Jenna Ortega, Jack Quaid, Marley Shelton, Dylan Minnette, many others. So faces you may recognize, names maybe you don't know, but they sort of make up the new core group. And this is the first one not directed by our friend Wes Craven.
Well, yeah.
Because he's dead.
Yeah.
So, he had his stamp. I didn't realize until we looked it up that he had directed all 4.
That's pretty cool.
Of the originals.
Because this is kind of like his big passion project.
Yeah, and it really was his big 90s comeback.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes. I saw the original Scream twice in the theater.
Wow.
It was the first really like horror movie. I'd seen The Craft in the theater, but this was the first horror movie I ever saw in the theater. Second time we saw it, we had such a big group. Half of our friends were behind us. And at one point when they're like, it's a really dark moment, they're in the house, my friend came up behind me and like grabbed me on the shoulder. I screamed, and no pun intended, and everyone in the theater laughed at me, and it was,
What's the appropriate place
I was very angry at him.
I understand.
Because that is a very intense movie, and as a not horror person at that time, certainly intense. So with this one, they talk a lot about, like you mentioned, the requel.
I like that, yeah.
The concept, because we've seen a lot of course, prequels and spin-offs and sequels, and they name-check a bunch of them.
Yep, they got it all.
They name-check Halloween, they name-check Ghostbusters when they did the 2016 women version.
Star Wars.
They talked about Star Wars. And then, of course, the initial scene of this is another what's your favorite scary movie bit.
Yeah.
This time she went into the more... What would you say? Cerebral. She talked about the Babadook.
Talking about
and
the
It
changing
Follows.
of horror movie comebacks lately have been much more. You're right, cerebral.
Yeah, little changing of the guard.
Yeah,
she talked about the witch at one point.
The witch and Babadook. Yeah, It Follows was there.
Yeah. So so that was kind of cool. But yeah, they more or less recreate that original scene with Drew Barrymore. Interesting. The updates in technology.
Yeah.
Because of course this lady still has a landline. a lot of parents do. My brother does for his kids, you know, whatever. A lot of parents still do have one.
But she's texting.
But she's texting while the landline's going off, so that added a new element.
That was cool.
I guess you didn't see 4, but I guess there was a little bit of that in 4 as well, because of course cell phones were a thing. But yeah, harkening back to that first one. And the thing that I love about these movies is they talk about this as they're mentioning the rules of the things. And of course, stab plays a major factor in this. Stab is, I don't know how early they started talking about that. Maybe it was Scream 2, but Scream 4 was heavy into the stab subculture. So Stab, of course, is the movie within the movie about Sydney and based on the first movie.
Yes.
But here they go, more in depth with that whole thing, and they're up to Stab 8 in this one. And they even talk about how, they're just calling it Stab. Yeah. But we all know it's Stab 8.
So they know their own, we were talking about
bothered me, of course. I said, why doesn't it Scream 5?
They acknowledge it, though.
They know. And that said a lot to me.
They know a lot.
That made me happy.
Yeah.
They knew, I think, all the complaints. There's a lot of stuff here about the fan culture.
Yes.
For sure.
Well,
which I think we can get behind.
They really checked every box carefully to acknowledge any complaint you could pretty much have with the entry itself, really. Yeah,
I mean, they really, and look, this franchise is all about the winking and the nodding, the sort of fourth wall breaking. So yeah, I like that they referenced all of that. And all right, so I guess we'll go into some spoilers after our grades. I really liked this movie. For me, this is about on par with number 4. It might even be a little bit better, but I'm going to stick with that same grade. I give this a B+.
Yeah, that's about what I was thinking. Actually, as just kind of its own movie, I was really enjoying it for the most part.
Yeah, and you are not familiar with the middle movies. You don't need to be.
No,
they they fill you in on everything you need to know.
I mean, the nice thing about it is it's kind of was kind of taking a stab and commentary on a stab that was actually not intentional, but really on fandom and movie culture and really just the constant reboots. But the thing is, a lot of movies have been doing that for years.
Yes.
But this one kind of adds an extra layer to it, talking about people complaining about that.
And we just talked about The Matrix and had heavy, influence with that. I think if it's done well, it can be fine.
Yeah.
But this franchise almost lives off of it.
That's
so
what it is,
they had to do it. And I do like the way they did it. I like the idea of the requel and sort of, rewriting the rules, but having all of those same rules still from that first one. I thought that was good.
And they try to kind of take all those ideas and sort of push it as far as they can. It just gets so buried, which I think shows a lot of the strengths of the movie's script, which I think is one of the strongest things about it. But I think much like Scream, the franchise itself, for me, there's also some inherent problems with that I can't quite look over.
Yeah.
It's okay, like for instance...
Hospital.
Well, not even that.
Okay.
Not even that stuff. Those were issues, but it's all with the meta commentary. It's so careful.
Yes.
So layered. It's that I'm like, okay, that's good. But you're starting to seem a little too...
Is it too redundant or...
Well, it's a bit... Well, that's part of the issue I have.
Too on the nose.
Too on the nose. Okay, there's a scene where it's remember, she's watching the movie with them, watching other guys. And I'm kind of like, all right, this is getting... We get it, and I want to say they think they're smart, but they know. But then I'm like, we don't have to push it so far every time. Yeah. So not every scene worked for me. Okay, we're really.
And I'm going to say we're in spoiler territory now. So
yeah,
like I sort of talked about. So,
but
yeah, feel free to divulge. But yeah, the hospital. There's no employees in this hospital where they're killing people?
And I don't know. And that's where I find it harder to judge the Scream movies, because on one hand, yes, they're parodies and meta on slasher movies, which have
But it's
issues.
supposed to live in the real world as well.
Yes. So it's and the thing is, that's one of the issues I have with it, is in that scene with the hospital with no one there, that's more ridiculous than most actual slasher movies.
Right.
So I'm like, what? I mean, there was some good atmosphere,
yes,
but it makes no sense.
No.
So and that's where some of the issues
And we liked some of the effects.
Actually, I loved and
a lot of practical.
A lot of practical. There were some good scares, some good gore.
I definitely jumped a few times. Now they tried a little hard with the
one,
a few of the jump scares. No, well, I liked that part. I do like when somebody catches on fire. But no, when the kid from 13 Reasons Why is going in the different things in his kitchen, and he's keep opening doors, and we expect that Ghostface is going to be there, and he never is. And they did that like 5 or 6 times here in a row.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is that I liked it when they did it a couple times.
Yeah.
But by the 6th time, I was like,
it's a little much.
I think, and that was the issue I have with this one, is like, but then after a certain point, you're pushing it.
Yeah.
So maybe a little too much on some of those.
Okay.
But I did like it, the fact that it was
How about when they actually had like the person was watching the YouTube channel with the Stab 8 like critics and
or like
fanboys,
CinemaSins or something.
CinemaSins, yeah, it's like
everything
a takeoff
wrong with
on
Stab
CinemaSins,
5.
right?
It was
right.
So yeah, that culture was pretty good of just movie fans bashing.
Yeah.
And,
did you like when he said that the series that Stab went off the rail at the 5th one? That was good. That was good.
So I appreciate
some of that stuff is good.
So it's like, it's tough because I'm like, it's so good at being self-referential, but that's kind of the ultimate shield of criticism, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think this franchise has always sort of towed that line very well.
Of like, I want to give you a hard time, but though.
Yeah,
so it's hard for me to say, is this bad or is this intentional?
Well, and it's funny, I said to you, whatever my grade's going to be, I'm going to have to lower it by a shade because they didn't call it Scream 5 and they didn't make the S into a 5 and whatever. And then they addressed it. I can't argue against that. They knew my complaint.
A really good argument.
Yes.
And some of the monologues they built on were really good, just kind of weaving that into the cultural commentary of fandom with the movies. So it was very smart. It was very, and that's good, in line with the original.
I think we do get a lot of that these days, and I wonder if that's mainly because of the original Scream.
I think Scream was one of the first ones to really do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that vein, I mean, like the Muppets were fourth wall breaking and stuff like that, but in terms of like, because they're not really breaking the fourth wall, they're just being self-referential
without poking.
They're not exactly talking to the audience.
No,
but
like the fact that they know that the killer is based on following horror movies, so they're talking about it like it's a movie. Even though we're watching, and they're doing what, so it's
right.
So it's
so many imitators since.
Yes,
I
mean, yes, like just being meta, especially these days. I feel like that's been we brought it up. Yeah,
even something like the Jump Street movies had a lot. And we love the Jump Street movies,
but
they did a lot of that as well. But of course that's a comedy. So but yeah, I liked the rules in this one being basically the same, but then adding a couple of layers to those. I liked the method of them getting everybody from the old involved, and then the rules talking about them and saying, you have to find a reason to bring back the originals and all of that. I liked that.
Could you guess my favorite things about this movie?
Your favorite things about the movie? Besides seeing Neve Campbell again, of course, we know this.
That was good. Might surprise you.
Well, certainly, I think for you, the effects, as we mentioned,
the practical effects,
a couple of those knife,
some of the
effects were very cool,
very good, and cringy. In terms of like, oh no, that's fun.
I definitely cringed a couple of times, and maybe for you as well, the specific nod to certain other horror franchises such as Psycho, Christine.
Well,
a couple of those deaths.
I did like those things, but the things that I thought were actually some of the strongest of the movie were for one thing, the fact that all these different characters were so they were diverse, but they all could be kind of ominous, and the rules were so layered that honestly we were guessing everybody. I really was unsure at various points who the killer could possibly be.
Now, again, this is very, very spoiler territory, fans. But I guessed there's 2 killers in this one. I guessed the guy pretty much right from the start.
Yeah,
but then
I stopped for a while though because
you went off of him. Yeah. I thought it was him for a long time, and then
you thought it was the one girl.
About halfway through, I realized, there's going to be 2.
Sure,
because they kept bringing it up that the original had 2 killers. But the second one.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been about 5 different people.
Yeah.
We were really sort of riffing and going back and forth on the thoughts. At one point, I did think it was the one, but it could have been anybody.
Which I don't know if necessarily...
It could have been, I think, about 3 solid people at that end.
Which I liked, but I was also like, it's one thing where that might be kind of a cheat because the possibilities for those were not very well established characters because much like the original, they're just crazy people that are like, oh, let's imitate the movie.
Right,
so,
right.
I don't know how good of a mystery that really is, but at least it keeps you guessing.
I sort of liked it though.
It was fun.
And I love that these movies are mysteries.
Yes,
it really is, and they even bring up Knives Out in this movie,
you don't
which
have
is
too
great.
many of those. I was about to say Knives Out is
which was
one
cool.
of the few.
Which I rewatched, by the way, over the holiday.
It's a good movie.
It was on TV,
Really
and my brother had not seen it, and he loved it as much as I do. But yeah, most of these movies are, here's the killer, let's see how they get away with it, or how they chase these people, how they kill these people. But this really is more of a, we don't know who the killer is, and each one is like that.
And I'll get so paranoid about the rules that they're like, how do I know you're not the killer? And you're like, I don't know.
Right.
We don't.
And they
really
even
know.
say it to each other.
Yeah, they don't trust each other.
Which makes sense.
But honestly, my favorite thing about the movie, because I'm not as much of a huge Scream fan, like getting so excited about the old characters coming back, was actually the relationship between the two sisters.
The sisters, yeah, that was solid.
I thought their performances were very good, and I actually really cared about them.
Yeah,
as characters, and I like.
You never thought it was the sister, right?
No, I never really.
I never did either.
And I like the fact that they both kind of were able to fight back at a lot of points, and that the twist they kind of had on them. I really liked what they did with the characters and with the legacy of who she is too.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. They did like the facial what do you call that?
Oh,
not deconstruction, but
CGI,
like the de-aging. Yeah. They de-aged Skeet Ulrich to look like he did in '96, which was, I mean, it makes sense because obviously the character died, so he's not going to age.
I guess that's true.
But I think it looked a bit wonky. It didn't look quite as smooth as your Disneys and your Avengers and stuff like that.
No, it was all right.
It was all right.
It was all right. It served its purpose.
It served its purpose. They showed him many times. Probably 3 or 4 different times.
It was an interesting angle being haunted by her.
I thought that was a good twist.
Yeah, I like that.
On that. All right, so I know you didn't want to make this super long, so we can pretty much wrap there, but I did want to look at the Rotten because both of us went into this movie saying we don't know anything about the critics. I don't even think I saw a trailer for it. I really went in so blind to this movie.
I know you laughed at a couple parts, and I was like, "Yeah, that was in the trailer."
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like honestly, the whole opening scene.
Okay, was that in the trailer? Oh, okay.
Pretty much, and her saying, "Oh, I've got a gun because I'm sitting."
And see, this is why I just don't watch trailers.
Fresh.
77% on the critics. Now, 88% fewer than 50 ratings because it just came out an hour ago. But 88% on the audience. I think 77% is pretty good.
I was going to guess in the 70s, like 74, 74.
And I think that's about right. I think 75-80% is probably pretty good. What are they saying here? Turns out to be a great deal of fun, cleverly wedding familiar faces with new stars. Okay, this is a negative. Like many better than average renditions, the main takeaway from Scream is the wish that its directors were making an original rather than recycling an old one. But I think this is the franchise to do it. Mm-hmm. Like, I think this is the franchise because it's so meta to sort of turn that trope on its ear. But he still gave it a 2.5 out of 5, so that's not necessarily like horrible. There's some pitfalls to keep it from being more enjoyable. Plenty of inventive horror and clever screenwriting. Rating 4 out of 5. So it's probably where I am, about 3.5 or 4 out of 5 if we did the 5s. But
I agree because I mean it's like it is kind of doing all that stuff, and maybe it wings a little too much in some ways, but for the most part,
that was always the point to me.
Yeah, but I once again with a couple of those gags, maybe a little too far.
Too much. I agree, and that's why it's a B plus instead of a higher.
That's why I was like, I almost wanted to say it was great, but
But interesting to bring everybody related to the people. Like we had Jamie Kennedy's kid, his character's kids.
How'd you like how they took out
nephews or whatever?
Sheriff Judy. How'd you feel about that? That was
that's right, Sheriff Judy. Yeah. And they named the character Wes.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
Of course, Wes Craven.
That was good.
But to sort of bring because they're still in the town. Was it Woodstown or Woodsboro or whatever?
Woodsboro, I think.
Woodsboro. They're still in the town, so it would make sense that a lot of the family members would still be there or whatever. Mm-hmm. This was very enjoyable. Usually the January horrors are bad.
Yeah.
The ones I can think of, it's like The Devil Inside, The Forest, The Woman in the Window.
Well, January is always the dumping ground for movies.
Yes, and I guess maybe because of COVID, rules are all sort of thrown out the window.
These days.
This was supposed to come out, I think, I want to say last summer,
like an August release
or maybe last Halloween era,
October
or something. But
yeah,
so it's not really a January movie. It just got sort of shuffled there.
But hey, it worked out pretty.
But
well.
it worked out because this is I've been catching up on my 2021 movies, making sure I see. So this is technically the first 2022 movie I've seen.
Oh, nice.
Good start.
Off to a good start.
Yeah, off to a good start. All right, Joe, thank you for joining as always. And everybody else, we'll see you very soon here on Dan Reviews It. Thanks for watching. Bye.